Hi, everyone. I'm so excited for our show today. You are listening to 100% on, not in your business, where we focus on helping business owners get out of the weeds of the day to day and level up so that they can focus on their business, growing their sales, growing their customers, and developing their employees. When they do that, their business grows to fill the vision that they had for it and then even beyond. I'm so excited about my guest today. His name is Troy Weber, and Troy is a business advisor and executive coach. He has a wealth of experience and knowledge that he is providing business owners, not just in the United States, but around the world with his just cultural experiences. He is definitely a world traveler. Troy, welcome today. Just tell the audience a little bit about you and what your background is all about.
Appreciate that, Steve. Thank you for the opportunity to join you on such a great topic, by the way. I love that. So focused and so, advantageous for all the business owners today. I mean, I hear this every single week. So yeah, I'm Troy Weber. My background is I'm a chemical engineer. That's what happened to my hair, Steve, just in case you're wondering. And and I literally spent 30 years in the semiconductor industry traveling the world. And it's kind of interesting. My career has been literally, infrastructure supporting manufacturing operations, moved into quality, both in the wafer fab as well as then managing the supply chain of 15,000 suppliers globally. And then I moved into supply chain and logistics and worked in distribution, product distribution, had operations in multiple countries and just really enjoyed the journey. And I tell you what, Steve, but what's exciting me is after my retirement, I'm looking for what's that next chapter? How do I make a difference? What can I do to help, small and medium-sized business owners be successful,
Right.
garnering, my skills, my knowledge, as well as, my ability to work across all these cultures. And then how can I help them be successful in their endeavors? So that's what I'm doing now, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh man, that's awesome. So you've taken just years of just a breadth of experience in kind of your corporate background, and you realized, hey, I can apply this to businesses and business owners, and I'm sure they appreciate the coaching and the feedback and the assistance that you provide them. What are some of the maybe call them the top three as you work with your clients? What do you see are kind of the top three challenges they have as their business begins to grow and they have to rely on more and more people, and then getting to that point where they're on their business and not necessarily in the business in the day to day? What are maybe those three challenges you see?
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it, Steve. It's really incredible across all these industries that I cross into with business owners and backgrounds and what have you. What's interesting is the first order of business is, and literally what I take business owners through is called know thyself.
Hmm.
It starts with what is your why? I like Simon Sinek has a great, start with why. And he shares that golden circle is if you don't know your why, the what and the how really don't make any difference.
Yeah.
And so many people, you start with know thyself. I do a lot of disc assessments and a lot of assessments across the board that really help business owners. And it's funny, I had this discussion with a lady that just got her PhD, and she's in her 60s, completely retooling, sharp lady. And I said, let's start with know thyself. Let's really understand where you're coming from. She took it in, of course, a 46-page report of identifying those blind spots and the aha moment of, I need to improve my communication, both with my clients as well as my team, my executives. So it starts there, Steve. And then the second piece I would say is know thy business. It sounds very fundamental,
Mm-hmm.
but the foundational principles with business owners, I work with a lot of startups as well as some very mature business owners that have done it for many years. And they all tell me the same thing is that, Troy, I've got the goals, I've got the ideas. Yeah, I've got it. Are they documented? Are they communicated throughout your executive? So to me, it's all part of what I start out with is clarity, foundational principles of building and starting your business, whether you be a brand new entrepreneur, solopreneur, or a very seasoned CEO or executive. First of all, it's know thyself, know thy business. What's your why, and then really taking it to the next level of why are you doing what you do, and are you documenting it? because you literally can measure, you inspect what you expect,
Oh yeah.
and if you don't have that documented, having come from the global world and running operations globally, if you don't have those key metrics identified and specific things, and I'm not talking about 100, I'm talking about 10 or less, really carve that down to what are the specific characteristics that make or break the business. So
Right.
those are probably the top three that I see across the board, Steve.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And um, your point about measurement, you get what you measure. There's a funny story in my background. Is back when I was attached to a call center, and the leader wanted to reduce the time the agent spent with the customer on the call, because that meant we could take more calls throughout the day without hiring more people. So what did he do? He measured handle time, and you get what you measure. So what happened? Agents hung up on people. They didn't answer their questions. They were measured on their handle time. So CSAT, customer satisfaction, went down, but handle time, he achieved his goal. We actually took more calls. So yeah, you absolutely get what you measure. Your point about know thyself, I hear that so often, and Simon is definitely one of the biggest influencers in the world that's helping people understand why do you do what you do, and do you really understand yourself. um, you talked about disc assessments. Explain a little bit more about how disc assessments help people understand who they are and why they do what they do.
Excellent point, Steve. And the reason it's so critical, and I literally went through it myself first to really understand, and I've been through lots of assessments throughout the corporate world, obviously. But what it does highlight for you, Steve, is kind of, we have all of the particular areas of DISC, right? But what you really understand is how are you naturally bent, and then how do you function behaviorally under stress,
Yeah.
right? And that's called the adapted style. So you kind of see how you morph and ebb and flow with your personality characteristics in those areas. And that's not necessary. There's no right or wrong. It's more of an understanding of how you're wired. And then how does that come across, to other people that aren't wired the same way you are? I found that culturally working in Japan and China and in Singapore and various places in Asia, as well as a few in Europe as well, is that I would come across, I'm just normally very positive and very outgoing. That's just kind of my normal bent. But in some cases, I had to tone that down a little bit because it was being received as overzealous, not real, not authentic. And I started adapting to match that culture to really understand, to communicate effectively. So to your point, you learn how you're wired, and then how your behavioral style, how you're being received on the other end of the communication channel. And that can be critical when you're dealing with clients, when you're dealing with your executives or your team members, of how are you coming across? Are you being effective in your communication? So those are just a couple of tidbits that I personally have really enjoyed, Steve.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because um, if you can broaden your perspective to not just understand yourself, but how you're coming across, you can tailor how you come across to that particular person. You mentioned you kind of knowing how you're hardwired. One of the things I keep hearing from some of my guests is business owners should focus on the things, should do the things that creates passion, that they enjoy doing. And the litmus test is when you don't enjoy it, when it doesn't bring you passion. That's when you have a team member do it. That's when you develop someone to do it the way you would do it, but they have the skills and expertise and probably the passion.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
that probably helps them to understand, oh, this is where I drive my energy from. This is because I'm
Exactly.
hardwired to do that, right?
Exactly.
I love talking with people. Can I get behind the keyboard and do the details work? Sure, but I love this.
Exactly. And that brings up a great point, Steve. And one thing that I also share in a lot of presentations that I give is what we call the law of self-control. And it's
Mhm.
something Brian Tracy came up with. Because the nice thing, Steve, is that not only do I have 30 years of experience in the corporate world and traveling the globe, But I also have Brian Tracy as the founder of Focal Point,
Mhm.
and I'm a certified coach and trainer in that space of about 250 coaches worldwide. So we've got a developed curriculum that is so well versed to accommodate business owners so that they work on their business and not in their business.
Right.
And what I mean by that is literally this law of self-control you touched on a minute ago is that what Brian Tracy says is your thoughts, it starts with the thoughts, keep that in mind. And I'll segue into mindset here in a minute. Thoughts lead to feelings,
Mhm.
feelings lead to actions, and actions lead to outcomes. So if you think about all that as a business owner working on your business and not in your business, where does it start? Your thoughts.
Right.
And your thoughts are a daily mindset, you know. In fact, I literally have a routine every day where I'm listening to literally an excerpt from Brian Tracy on self-confidence. And it prepares you mentally for the right thoughts, which lead to the feelings, which lead to positive actions and positive outcomes. And so if you think about that, it starts with the business owner's mindset. You know, in fact, whenever I start a coaching session with my clients, instead of saying, "Hey, Steve, how are you doing today?" I start it like this: "Steve, tell me three things you're grateful for today."
Oh yeah.
It changes the entire mindset of our conversation. In fact, I did that with one of my clients and she stopped and went, "Wait a minute. That's not what I was expecting." Absolutely, because it sets that positive tone of thoughts leading to feelings, actions, and outcomes.
Right.
So it's all about mindset, Steve. That's where it starts as business owners.
Now let's recognize one of my favorite sponsors, Calendar Bridge. Calendar Bridge makes it so easy to book appointments with your customers, your clients, really anybody you want to meet with without the back and forth hassle of finding out what their availability is and whether or not it matches yours. With Calendar Bridge, you simply send whomever you want to meet with a link and they can find time that fits their busy schedule and have direct access to what's available on your calendar. When they click through the experience, they'll book an appointment on your calendar and then they'll be notified of all the details related to your appointment. You can get your first month free when you use code DJKKT. That's a capital T. Just go to www.insuremesteve.us/calendar bridge and use code DJKKT with a capital T. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah, that's right on. I can't agree more. Um, but the reality is, a lot of the business owners, they get into the day to day, the weeds, and it's just like, oh, one fire after another, after another, after another. How do you help them reset to kind of level up back to reset your mindset, reset the thoughts so that you have the right sequence of events happen afterwards?
Exactly. Well, there's a couple of things. One is it's all about that mindset, as I mentioned. You know, so who are you surrounding yourself with, right? You know, what kind of information are you putting in? I find myself now as a entrepreneur reading more than I ever did before. I
Right.
loved it before, but guess what? It was more technical operations, things
Mhm.
like that. So making that transition from the corporate world, I'll be honest with you, and this is why I think the book by Michael Gerber of E-Myth Revisited is so fresh on my mind because I'm living it, right? He talks about, in fact, in the coaching world, we call it three I's of the business owner. We all have these personalities of entrepreneur, manager, and technician,
Mhm.
right? But it's funny because when he's in his book, he talks about the fact that most people that are starting their business, right out of the gate, he said the breakout is typically 70% technician, 20% manager, and 10% entrepreneur.
Right.
I'm living proof of that because I came from the corporate world, directing operations, running operations in multiple countries. I was the manager director mode. When I moved out of that corporate space and into my own business, I'm having to reprogram myself to be more of that visionary. You know, I've always had it at a glimpse, but then you would revert right back into manager, roll up the sleeves, technician mode, make things happen, right? Especially in the corporate world, that's how you get things going right now.
Right.
Well, when you own your own business and you're working with other business owners, I share that transition with them because I'm having to retool. I'm having to learn how to network. I'm learning how to establish my brand, because I'm new at this. I just started this, Steve, in fourth quarter last year in the middle of a pandemic. So I'm still
That's
learning.
courage right there.
Yeah. But I'm fascinated at how much I'm learning from other business owners. To your point you made earlier, I learn more from them than they probably learn from me, because I enjoy the diversity of backgrounds, of thought processes. And I learned that traveling globally as well. And how do you take them, to your point, if we're going to all default to the technician role, and I kind of recalibrate and say, think about that technician for a minute, Steve. The technician's making 10 or 15 bucks an hour, maybe more, but let's just pick on those numbers for round numbers. Managers, 40 to $50,000 a year, and you being the entrepreneur, hopefully a lot more unlimited potential, right? So why do we spend our precious time in those spaces? We're wasting the value of our expertise, our experience, and sharing that. We're supposed to be, the entrepreneur is the forward-looking eye, right? The vision, the person that's always asking, what if, where might we go? How could we do that? Thinking out of the box. Now, granted, the entrepreneur sometimes can be the nemesis to the manager and the technician that are going, are you kidding me? Another idea, forget it, Steve. Let's just stay on course. But you need that visionary. You need that vision, missions, value of where we're headed. You're the rudder of the ship, right? And then the manager is looking backwards. You pay them to look at results and run dashboards and key performance metrics and what have you, and looking at data points for decisions. They're the cost analysis part. To your point, you delegate that to the people that are good in that space, right?
Right.
And get your hands out of it, so it frees you up to lead the ship, to guide the ship. The technician, they're in the present right now, get it done. I'm trying to get my job done, and at 5 o'clock, I'm leaving.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You need those skill sets. Those are the people that make it happen day in, day out. But you got to understand, that's some people's passion. That's what they want to do. I have a bunch of good friends, and they're very good technicians. In fact, they're top of their game, but they don't want to be a manager.
Right.
They don't want to be an entrepreneur. Their space is right there, and just allow them to grow, allow them to prosper in that area. There's nothing wrong with that. But as business owners, we like to get our hands down there. Well, Steve, let me just show you how to do that. Well, I learned this in Boy Scouts. I was the troop committee chairman for about a decade. I love Scouts. Both my sons went through Scouts. My oldest son is an Eagle Scout. But one thing I learned very quickly in scouting that I really fell in love with, in fact, I did a lot of advanced training for adult leaders in Scouts, is the first order of business is put your hands in your pocket. You can't do it for them.
Oh, yeah.
You want people to fail in a very safe environment. How do they learn? That's how they grow. To me, it's the same thing as an entrepreneur. Put my hands in my pocket. I don't need to be the technician. I don't need to be the manager. Been there, done that, know how to do them well. Doesn't mean I need to invest my time doing that today. It's
Right.
a waste of my time. And it's not my passion. To your point, my passion is interfacing with people and business owners, and how can I use my skills and my toolkit to help you? But by the way, I'm looking for people with the right attitude.
Yeah.
Do you want to grow? Do you want to think outside the box? Are you willing to retool and make a change? Are you willing to adapt? When I went to Japan many, many times, and I love Japan, you can't read a sign. You can't read any menu. You can't read anything. You talk about being uncomfortable. But you know what? All of your senses are heightened when you're uncomfortable. You're forced to adapt. You're forced to change on the fly. And I fell in love with that. At first, I was very uncomfortable. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And then you start learning when you're pushed out of your comfort zone, when you're that entrepreneur, not in that comfort zone of manager or technician, which you default to, and I default to, but step out there on faith, retool, adapt, change, and be willing to be uncomfortable so that you learn faster. And it's an incredible journey along the way. So I'm constantly bringing business owners. In fact, I shared that with a business owner the other day, and he was like, oh yeah, Troy, I'm a great technician. I am too. I get it, but we can't be. Doesn't make sense financially. It's not where your passion is. It's draining you.
Yeah.
You need to be the rudder of the ship. What's next? Where are we going next? which brings up an excellent segue, if you don't mind me segueing, Steve, is
Yeah, go ahead.
the business life cycle. I bring business owners right into that. It's written, it comes from a book by Charles Handy called, he's the author of The Empty Raincoat.
Uh-huh.
And I love it. Some people know it as a sigmoid curve, business life cycle. They're synonymous. But I love it because, again, I wish I would have seen this in the corporate world. It applies to careers, executives, business owners, all the above. Three aspects: learning, growth, and a decline or reinvention stage.
Yeah.
And we all go through them.
It's that S curve, right?
It's an S curve on its side.
Mhm.
Exactly, Steve.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about it is that we all go through it at different frequencies or whatever. Some of that learning piece may be months, years, days, hours, depends. Same thing with growth and reinvention. But if I think about that, the learning piece, as I'm ramping up my business and my practice right now, man, things are perfect. They're looking good. The honeymoon trap, hey, nothing can go wrong, right? Then it starts declining a little bit because you're still trying to figure it out. And there's a trap called 3 Feet from Gold, which I really love.
Yeah.
And it's based upon a story of a silver miner in Nevada. And he literally put all this time, money, energy, bought all this equipment and things to really get this silver mine rolling. Well, he found a little here and there, but never that big pocket, right? Finally got to a point where, man, I mean, you can imagine the expenses associated with all that strip mining equipment and everything. Finally sold it on pennies on the dollar and said, man, I can't do this anymore. I can't survive. A guy bought it from him and said, I think you were close. I'm going to keep digging. And he brought in some crews to really understand, what the mine geophysics looks like and what have you. And the guy was 3 feet from hitting the major silver mine, and he sold it on pennies on the dollar. So don't lose sight of the fact, even though that S curve is kind of making a dip right after, you're still in that learning phase. After that comes growth.
Right.
And then in the growth phase, there's a couple of traps there, founders and success trap of, man, things are looking good. I'm dealing with a business owner right now. He said, Troy, I want to double what we're doing, but the wheels are about to fall off. I mean, I'm stressing my processes. I'm stressing everything I've got. I really need to figure out, how do I retool to adapt to make that doubling of the growth, right, of revenue. Same thing at success. You think about BlackBerry, great. Now I'm dating myself, Steve. Sorry about that, but
I remember the tactile.
Yeah.
It took
I
a
was
while
on the
to learn how to type on that.
Yeah, exactly. I was on the other side of the world and literally using BlackBerry. Works great all over the world. They got fat, dumb, and happy and didn't reinvent. And the next thing you know, who took over? Apple, Samsung, because they were willing to think out of the box and retool, reinvent. So instead of declining, in that next phase following growth, they reinvented and went the other way.
Right.
So great example of business life cycle. Again, where are you on that journey? But it all starts with mindset, like we talked about a minute ago. Are you working on your business or in your business? Be careful, because if you're not working on the business, you're more apt to decline versus reinvent, because you're not thinking anymore. You're the technician. You're down in the manager role. You're micromanaging and not allowing your people, your team to flourish. So be careful with that, because there are some serious traps that can go the wrong direction for you in a business if you're working in it and not on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that mindset's key. And then always reminding yourself, why did you get into the business that you're in? And then hit that reset button. It's hard. Getting getting a business up and running every day seems like a new challenge. Sometimes new employees get added, customers are a challenge, whatever. But staying focused for the long term, because you never know when that 3 feet is just right there, right there.
That's kind of scary. You think about that. And again, to your point, Steve, if you're so busy, like I was many times, traveling the globe, myopically focused on a specific issue or customer issue or quality issue with a supplier overseas, what have you, you get so deep into that, you got to step back at times and go, wait a minute, what's the goal? Where are we headed? And many times I'd have that discussion with managing directors of huge companies all over Asia, where I would say, look, we're spending millions of dollars a month with you guys on your product, but I'm in it with, I'm bringing a whole audit team to help you be successful because I need you to help me be successful around the world.
Right.
You're a critical component. So although we're working on the problem, trust me, we're in this for the long haul. We're here to help you, grow with you, teach you, share with you what we're seeing, and fix it together so that in the long run, we hit the goals.
Yeah. Something you said there triggered a thought in my mind, especially with the year we had last year. So many executives in a corporate environment, uh, they're changing, they're pivoting. Maybe they had to exit their business or the company they were with, whatever. And that's a different mindset shift of, myopically fix a problem, because my role is, let's say I'm the CFO, right? So my role is financial and I fix financial stuff. And then the CTO, he fixes technology, so on and so forth. But when you're an entrepreneur, you gotta broaden that. And it's a different way of approaching business problems so that you focus on what all the possible solutions are out there and what the real problem might be, not just financial or technology or something else.
That's a great point, Stephen. And so many businesses last year, as you just pointed out, the pandemic, I mean, just hammered them. And I got a bunch of coaching colleagues that had their best year ever with their clients exploding last year. And let me share with you why. Sometimes it takes an accountability partner. And literally, that's more of what I am, Steve, working with business owners, is that I love people, business owners being able to bounce ideas off of me. Again, I've traveled the globe. I've learned a lot of things in different cultures, a different way of looking at things.
Mhm.
And I don't like being a consultant. I still do some technical consulting in the semiconductor arena around the world, just because it kind of keeps my fingers in that technical side.
Right, right.
But the passion is around, how can I just share a different perspective? How can I hold you accountable? And many of my colleagues were sharing that with businesses, owners that they've had for years. And they said that many of them would say, look, Steve, hate to tell you this, man, but we got to close up shop. And my coaching, business coaching buddies would say, wait, Steve, I'm not leaving your office until we come up with 3 ideas that we're going to implement in light of this catastrophe that we're in the middle of. And he
Right.
wouldn't leave. And he forced those business owners to think out of the box. And many of them doubled their revenue last year during the pandemic. Now, to your point, did they have to pivot? Yeah. Did they have to adapt? Yes. Again, it comes back to that entrepreneur going, I got to think differently. What used to work is not working today. That is gone, right? We've got to be in the moment. We have to understand the situation we're in. We face it head on. I'm not saying you put your head in the sand, but be willing to say, okay, that's an opportunity. How do we overcome it?
Yeah.
How do we think differently? E-commerce has blown through the roof as a result of a lot of that. Think about that. Small mom and pop shops crept up out of nothing and started realizing, hey, people are ordering on their phone and getting stuff shipped and what have you. Well, I came from supply chain and logistics running an e-commerce sector of the semiconductor business. I know how that works.
Right.
And it's brilliant if you can think out of the box and use that model to launch. And to me, that's what business coach, executive advisor, whatever you want to call me, sounding board, I like that even better, is how do you share a different perspective and keep that optimistic, positive light of thoughts, feelings, actions, and outcomes and hold you accountable. I'm not going to let you out, Steve. We're not backing down. We're 3 feet from gold and we're going for it.
That's
And
awesome.
hold you to that with different mindset. And it
Right.
all starts with that mindset to circle back to where we started. That's where it goes. And even during these pandemic times, it's needed even more than ever before.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Troy, this has been fantastic. Your perspectives on what businesses go through is unique, and I appreciate, know thyself, know thy business, and then document what you do and why you do it. If people wanted to learn more about you, if they were interested in coaching with you, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways, Steve. Is one, I'm on LinkedIn, right? I'm in the Dallas Fort Worth area. You can find me on LinkedIn. Also, an email, you can find me at tweber, Tweber, at focalpointcoaching.com. And I also have a website, which is troyweber.focalpointcoaching.com. Be happy to help in any way I can. And again, everyone's not a fit for everyone else. As we talked about, Steve, I'm looking for those business owners that have a mindset and willingness to change, willingness to grow. And, I'm living proof of that. You have to adapt, you have to retool. I've gone through the transition from the corporate world, loved what I did, absolutely learned a ton, a lot more than I realized now that I'm in my own practice, and learning to move out of that technician and manager role into the entrepreneurial eye, the visionary. It's a challenge, and it's a daily challenge. But if it's one you're willing to embrace and grow into, it's tremendously rewarding.
Right.
Because I'll be honest, Steve, my passion, my why is I want to be the pebble on the pond. I want to make a difference in each business owner's life, their employees, their family, their community, their churches, their infrastructure, or their spheres of influence, if you will. I want to make a difference. Hence, Weber Advisors, Inc., what I go by is I make a difference one business at a time.
That's awesome.
So each and every business owner I work with, I'm looking for that kind of mentality. Are you willing to be the pebble on the pond, make a difference? That ripple effect becomes a tsunami when bigger and bigger boulders are thrown into that water, because you're impacting, influencing lives all over the world. That's what I want to do. And that's what I'm interested in working with people with that mindset, Steve.
That's amazing. And a great abundance mindset, because you're not just helping the business owner, you're helping him and his business, which means you're helping his employees, which means you're helping families, which means you're helping the customers that he serves. It's fantastic. That I like that analogy, the pebble in the pond and those ripples that little pebble makes when you throw it in there. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, Troy,
appreciate the opportunity, Steve. It's been tremendous. I love working with you. It was great meeting you in a networking forum. And again, that's another example of that was a foreign concept to me in the corporate world.
Oh,
right. In learning how that works and meeting fantastic people like you that have been there, done that. I mean, I find it fascinating, and thank you for the ability to allow me to learn from you and your experience as well. I appreciate you, Steve.
Yeah, certainly. Well, and I think you're a natural at the networking. So you picked it up pretty fast. Well, cool. Troy, this has been fantastic. I appreciate your time. Have a fantastic rest of the week.
Have a blessed rest of your week, Steve. And thank you for the opportunity to share with this opportunity with so many other business owners out there. They're probably going through some of the same transitions that I just went through. So appreciate it, Steve.
Awesome. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you found tremendous value in today's episode with Troy Weber. Troy is a business advisor, executive coach, and as he said in the interview, a sounding board for his clients. He shared so much great information. A couple of my favorite parts and little pieces of nuggets that I took away from the interview was the three challenges that entrepreneurs have is knowing thyself. Why did they get into the business that they are in, and knowing their business, and then understanding and knowing why they do what they do so that they can inspect what they expect. Troy also shared some great information about the law of self-control, where our thoughts lead to feelings, and then those feelings lead to actions, and it's those actions that lead to the outcomes. And every step in that progression feeds on itself. So if you lead with negative thoughts, you're going to have negative feelings. Your actions will result in negative outcomes. I thought that was really important feedback for entrepreneurs to understand the importance of their own self-control and what leads to the outcomes that they are delivering. Ultimately, like Troy said, it starts with the mindset. I really enjoyed the story Troy shared about his lessons from Boy Scouts, whether it be teaching the Scouts or teaching adults associated with the Scouts. Put your hands in your pockets and allow them to fail. Don't get involved with doing the work. Teach them and show them how to do the work, and then allow them to fail within a safe environment. Troy brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to his clients. Not only is he a world traveler, but with years of experience in various roles in large corporations, he can bring that expertise with his coaching abilities to business owners. Like he said, be the pebble on the pond, make a difference, and be the ripple effect across the world. I think that is a fantastic mindset and something that all business owners should strive for every day. My name is Steve Stump. This has been an absolute pleasure to have Troy on the show today. What I help business owners do is attract and retain motivated employees with great health insurance benefits. When you can get and keep your employees, you can focus on developing them so they can run the day-to-day and allow you to work 100% on, not in your business. When you do that, you will attract new customers, drive more revenue, and ultimately be the pebble on that pond and the ripple effect that you want to make in your business across the world. I hope you found a lot of value in today's episode. Stay tuned to next week's episode, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so now so that you are reminded when the next episode launches on Monday.